guys, and welcome back to I Talk About Homestuck because I'm rereading it. If you want more context, I did a video about Act 1 and I will link it in the description and in the card somewhere up top. But basically, I'm rereading Homestuck, and every time I get to the end of an act, I'm gonna do a little video just talking about that act and my thoughts and stuff. And today, also, we have two guests. One guest,
this is the most important one.
One guest is Lenni, whatever, she's been in some Homestuck videos before.
I've been here before.
The other guest is very important. It's Senator Lemonsnout. We would like to welcome the senator to our video. Everybody clap.
He's beautiful.
Anyways, this is about Act 2 of Homestuck because I just got to the end of Act... Can you hear the ambulance outside?
Oh, I hope not.
So basically, I'm rereading Homestuck, and I got to the end of Act 2, and I wanted to do a little video chatting about Act 2, because that's what I did with Act 1, and that's what I'm planning on doing with the whole thing. Lenni's also reading Homestuck. That's why she's here.
She got me. It's taken 3 years, but she got me.
A couple months ago, 1 month ago? Not even that long ago.
2 maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Not very long ago. Lenni and I did a video talking about Homestuck, and I made her try to guess what Homestuck was about, and I made her try to guess who certain Homestuck characters were, because at the time she had not read Homestuck. But I got her to read Homestuck.
She got me.
And she has read in 2 weeks. I think you've been reading Homestuck for like 2 weeks?
Almost 3.
Almost 3. In less than 3 weeks, she has read over like close to 3,000 pages?
Yeah. Close.
She's in Act 5, Act 2, the second half of Act 5 already in like 2.5 weeks. And she read like Act 1 and 2 in like 2 days. Like,
is that good?
So quickly, which I'm very impressed
about.
I'm proud of you.
Okay, I'm glad.
But that means that while I've been here slowly plodding along rereading Homestuck at a snail's pace, Lenni's been like tearing through it. So she's way past Act 2 at this point, but she still decided to come and keep me company while I chat about Act 2. Thoughts about Act 2. My first thought is that well, like my thought about Act 1 was that like so much happens in Act 1, and like Act 2 is like, I feel like a lot of stuff does happen in Act 2, but I almost expected more to happen in Act 2, because by the end of Act 2, only John has entered the medium, the other 3 kids haven't, we haven't even officially met Jade yet, so like, a lot of stuff happens because we learn a lot about the game. We also get to meet WV and PM and a bunch of stuff, and we meet Dave, because we hadn't properly met Dave in Act 1, we don't properly meet him until Act 2, so like a lot of stuff happens, but like the story doesn't advance a ton because no one else enters the medium. We don't like, I don't know, it does and it doesn't advance, if that makes sense. But I just expected more people to have entered the medium by the end of Act 2. Because in my first video, if you haven't seen it, I talked about how the first act of Homestuck really feels like the first act of like a movie. Like when you break down movies into acts, you have like Act 1 that serves as sort of like setting up the story, and then the catalyst, and then the like break between Act 1 and Act 2 is like entering the new world, and then Act 2 in a movie is like most of the movie. Like the break between Act 2 and Act 3 is like getting towards the conclusion, right? And like the end of Act 2 in Homestuck is not getting towards the conclusion. Like it's like not that much more is set up between Act 2 and Act 3. So I feel like already at that point Hussey's kind of given up the like using acts the way they would in a movie. I don't know if that's even what he was thinking originally. That's just what I was thinking when I talked about how I felt like Act 1 really felt like an Act 1 in a movie, but Act 2 doesn't really feel like Act 2 in a movie. Like there's so much that happens afterwards. As you can attest.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Not to say it's not good. Like I did really enjoy Act 2. It's just as funny as Act 1. It has more like setup, more like plot. Well, there is setup in Act 1, but Act 2 like really starts to dive into the story.
You get to see the mayor.
Yes,
which was very good. I love the mayor a lot.
Not only is the mayor good though, the mayor really starts to like set up stuff about Skya and Spurb and all the like time loops, and like I feel like in Act 1 Hussey was really just like setting up a bunch of things that like could maybe pay off later, but he didn't fully have the story planned out yet. Whereas like Act 2 feels like he's like more than I thought actually. He like seems to have a lot plotted out by the end of Act 2. We know so much about like he, in order to make the final flash that ends Act 2, which like shows like the mayor and his like little pod thing like flying across like the country, and we see like in the past when the meteor hit and like made the frog temple that Jade ended up living at, and we see like so much stuff that we see in that flash and that we learn at the end of Act 2. Like Hussey had to have had so much planned out already in order to have that end of Act 2, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Like, there's so many things that are like mentioned and hinted at, and like he had to know at that point that all the kids were like made like we're slime babies because we get the note from Nana that basically tells us that, and we know all of the kids like god tier titles, and we get told like so many things actually in Act 2 that end up paying off later on. Like, I did not realize how much Hussie had planned ahead of time, but like by the end of Act 2 you can tell like how planned out it was. Or at least how good he was at pretending to have things planned out, because it feels planned out by the time you get to the end of Act 2. Like, there's so much foreshadowing that like didn't make sense the first time I read it, and now I'm like, oh my god.
I was deeply confused when the mayor showed up.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love him, but I was deeply confused at everything that was happening there.
Yes, and so much about like what the mayor makes with the cans, and he makes all the planets. He shows the kids planets, and
yeah, I do remember that he draws them on the chalk, and I went, what are you doing?
Like, what are those?
It made sense eventually.
And like he makes like Skaya and Durst and all like everything the mayor does is like foreshadowing and like telling us things that we're gonna learn later. And I remember that too when I read Homestuck for the first time. I remember as soon as the mayor showed up, I was like, what is happening? Like, who is this? What period of time is this happening in? What is it trying to tell us? Like, I so clearly remember being utterly baffled by everything about the mayor. Like, oh my goodness. And but then now, reading it now, everything with the mayor made like so much sense. It made so much sense in retrospect because so much of it really is like foreshadowing for things that happen later. And when you know what happens later, you're like, oh, I get it. Like everything he's doing is like foreshadowing to things that are gonna happen later or like places we're gonna see later, which is very interesting. I think the main point I had was that like Act 2 has way more purposeful setup than Act 1 did. Like, Act 1 takes us like a really big leap from like John in the normal world to John entering the game, but Act 2 goes from like setup to like purposeful setup.
Yes.
Like, I feel like Hussie really found his groove in Act 2.
I think so.
I think Act 2 is starting to get into what Homestuck is. So I'm really excited to start Act 3 because I just finished Act 2 last night, so I'm gonna jump into Act 3. I'm excited.
I have to read my daily allotment today.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Homestuck so far? We're kind of jumping ahead from Act 2, but I wanna hear what Lenni has to say.
I like it. It's very funny. I knew it was funny going into it because I have used the internet since 2011.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
you've been on the internet.
I know some things about Homestuck, so I know it's funny.
Homestuck.
I realized that I've unintentionally quoted Homestuck a lot, and I didn't know they were Homestuck quotes.
Yes.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really weird. I really like the flashes. I really like the music. She got me to read it by showing me the music, and I like the music so much, I finally caved because she showed me this cool music.
Homestuck has amazing music.
It's very good.
And it's not just good music, but the flashes are so good that like the music like adds so much meaning and like depth and like emotion to the story. So it's not just like random good music. It's like purposeful music. And I love that.
I really like it. I like the characters.
Yay. Yeah,
Which is the best part, I think.
Yeah.
I think if you screw up characters, it doesn't really matter what else you do.
That's true. Like the plot of Homestuck is very cool, but I think if Homestuck had uninteresting or unimpressive characters, then it wouldn't matter how cool the plot is. I don't think people would care about it as much. Like, I think the biggest strength of Homestuck is like how unique and interesting and appealing and weird and fun.
Weird. I like how
the
weird
characters are.
Every single kid is. They all just are strange little people.
Yeah, every kid, every troll has such distinct personality traits. Another thing that's interesting in Act 2 is a lot of stuff we learn about about Dave and Bro, like, in Act 2 is just like kind of funny, but then like later on you're like,
see, I found it extremely disturbing. Literally every time they're on screen, it's like, oh my god, this is really bad.
Yeah, but it's like funny bad, but then when you like think about it, like if a kid was actually living in this environment, it would be really bad.
It'd
and
be
like
horrific.
Later on, like Dave kind of like realizes that, like, okay, it wasn't funny, it was bad. But like it's so weird to be like reading something that's like kind of jokey, but you know like later on it's not, and I guess it's not jokey if you, because Homestuck exists in this weird like in between of like it's kind of like realistic and people have real emotions and real feelings, but it's also very funny and over the top and not real. And so like that stuff with Bro at first, it like when you first read it, it's very like funny and not real, but then when you like get to know Dave more as a character, like it feels more real, and then you're like, oh my god, I'm sorry.
Oh my god. Wow,
your childhood sucked. Yeah.
I'm also terrified of puppets now. I used to be very scared of clowns. I didn't really have any feelings whatsoever on puppets. Now I'm sort of neutral on clowns, I'd say, and I'm terrified of puppets. I never want to see a puppet again.
If Homestuck does anything, it will make you fear puppets.
Yeah, it's already happened.
And you haven't even fully gotten to like how bad little Cal really is.
I hate his face.
Dave hates it too. Dirk loves it though.
I really hate it.
Dirk loves little Cal.
It makes my skin crawl.
Oh, I'm so excited for you to get to Act 6 and to meet the Alpha
I
Kids.
don't want to see little Cal anymore.
But I'm excited to start Act 3! So that's going to be my next video. So like I said, I'm rereading Homestuck, and every time I finish an act, I'm going to do a video. Maybe sometimes Lenny's going to be there, maybe sometimes not. I'm just going to chat a little bit about my feelings about that act. So once I finish Act 3, I'll do another one of these videos. So if you're interested, you can subscribe. If you haven't watched my Act 1 video yet, I will link it somewhere. And if you enjoyed this video, you can like it. And comment, comment. Let me know if you're rereading. Because when on my first video, a few people commented and said that they were either planning on rereading Homestuck or they had just started rereading Homestuck. So if you're rereading Homestuck and you've gotten to the end of Act 2, let me know what your thoughts are. And if you have any other thoughts that I didn't mention about Act 2, and read along with me. I think it'll be fun.
It's fun.
So thanks for watching. Bye.